Hi, Cat's Cradle. I vowed when I went to sleep last night that I would not be making a YouTube video today. I have much too much to get done around my house, and I'm really far behind, and it's stressing me just a little bit. There's things I need to do for my family, and there's housework I need to do, and I've spent too much time on YouTube this week. But I never should have gone and read my email, because I got a message this morning that caused me to think and to come to my computer and make this video today. And the question from my subscriber was, with soy being almost 100% GMO and most printer ink, newspaper ink, being soy-based ink, how do you feel about putting that GMO-laced ink in printed paper into your compost and into your garden? And I thought about that long and hard and formulated my own opinion, and then decided I would go check out Michael Nolan and see what he has to say. He's known as the gardening rock star, and he's been published in the New York Times and in his own paper, which is, I'll tell you the name of it just a second here. His newspaper, well, he's written a book called I Garden Urban Style, and he also has a newspaper as well. And I'll tell you what he has to say if you will allow me the privilege of showing you a little bit of my garden. I'm going to show you first the larger portion of my garden, and you're going to see on the left-hand side of the picture a little bit of asparagus fern, and in the center you'll see a little bit of bean arbor growing up my clothesline pole. But all the rest of that is volunteer tomatoes, and we've let tomatoes do what they naturally do, which is sprawl over the ground. Some of them have tried to climb the cattle panels a little bit, but I will show you all of these beautiful tomatoes that are totally volunteer in my garden, which is thriving, as I tell you what Michael has to say. His article is entitled Educated to Stupidity, and he says, as a garden environment and food educator, it may seem odd that I'm questioning education, but education on its own is pointless. Without knowledge of the practical application of what we know, we can often do more harm than good, and in no other arena is that more obvious than in today's garden. He talks about his book where he recommends putting aside chemical and fertilizers and pesticides in favor of more natural methods for improving the soil and protecting our crops. He says, we know that much of the food industry uses toxic chemicals, fertilizers, and pesticides while growing the produce we consume, but they also use it in the hay fields that eventually feed the cattle that not only provide meat in our markets, but also the manure that we purchase in garden centers to naturally amend our garden soil. More likely, the beef we buy at the store has been corn-fed, which is not good for the animal, the environment, or you. The corn is almost always going to be genetically modified, or GMO. Think about that the next time you buy a bag of cow manure that you think is natural or organic. Instead of letting that knowledge stop you from using manure, why not be more proactive in the process? Contact a local horse or cattle farm and open a dialogue with them. Ask about getting manure from them, but don't let the conversation stop there. Ask about feed, antibiotics, and animal treatment. He said he's learning to choose his battles a bit more selectively these days. He's getting his manure for a farm where his horse is housed along with 12 of his closest equine friends. He knows exactly what they eat and where the food comes from. He also knows that some of the land on which the hay they eat was grown and may have been sprayed with chemicals at some point. That's okay. He goes on to talk about coffee grounds and how so many people want to use coffee grounds in their garden and want to go get them from the local coffee shop, but they're worried were the coffee grounds, did they come from organically grown coffee beans? What do you do when you can't afford the ridiculously expensive organic coffee beans? Who knows what they're spraying on those coffee plantations anyway? He says education can be a slippery slope, but we also need to temper that education with common sense. Now, you might not know the origin of the coffee beans at your local coffee shop, but it's been proven that coffee grounds are an invaluable addition to composting efforts that pump up the nitrogen content beautifully. That combination of just two ingredients, coffee grounds and newspaper and time, have proven to create a compost that scores well as the compost that includes all of our kitchen scraps. Even if you're ethically against using the compost made from questionable grounds for your edible garden areas, use them some other place in your yard. Before you declare your compost or soil chemical free, I'd suggest a soil analysis, he says. You might be surprised to learn that your dirt has some of the same bad stuff you're railing against. Choose your battles and learn to adopt a more flexible mindset that weighs the pros and cons of every option objectively. He says, when he talks about coffee grounds, he says, any chemical pesticides that might have been used on the plant that grew the coffee bean would have been decimated by the washing process, the roasting process, the grinding, the brewing. Further, compost with 25% coffee grounds will usually maintain a higher temperature for longer periods than other compost, so even more of the evil stuff is removed. And I would maintain that's true for newspaper as well. I shred it, I water it, I compost it, and then I spread it on top of my soil and let it bake in the miracle of the sun, what the sun does, the sterilization and the purification of the sun. I am not at all concerned with the newspaper I put on my garden. Now, I do not put the colored slick stuff on because that has another additive in it that is even of more concern, so I don't use that at all. But the regular dull newspaper, I shred it, compost, and use it like crazy. Like I said, I'm not concerned about it because I know how much it has degraded before it gets on my plants. And I also know that the benefits of having it outweigh the detrimental effects of not using it. Here's another thing I look at. We not only have an earthworm farm, but we have earthworms in our compost as well. And I know there's a very delicate balance that has to be maintained for those worms. And if they get things that don't agree with them, they will not thrive. They will cease to produce little baby earthworms, and they can eventually die themselves, like if you load it up with meat products or dairy products or too much citrus or that kind of thing. So I know that the shredded newspaper and the shredded paper that I'm putting in there is not overwhelming them because they are thriving. Here's a compost tumbler in my garden that's totally engulfed by volunteer plants, both Kentucky Wonder Beans and tomatoes, and we've just let the garden do what it wants this year. We're going to see what happens. I may have a little trouble getting to the compost tumbler. This is a commercially bought tomato plant. I only bought 4. When you see my garden, it's amazing because my garden is covered with tomatoes and I only have 4 that were commercially purchased. So calm down, take a deep breath, implement the little saying that I use with my preschooler, which goes something like this: good, better, best, never let it rest till your good is better and your better is best. Keep improving and doing better all the time if you can. That is the best we can do, is when we know how to do better, we do better. Paladin Prepper, I sent him a link to 2 old World War II posters, and he is a photo restorationist, and he made these absolutely beautiful and then then copied them on photographic paper for me. This one says, grow your own, be sure. That is the only way for you to be sure what you're consuming is if you grow it yourself. You know exactly what's been put on your food. The other poster says, can all you can. It's a real war job. And although this was printed during World War II, our war today is different. Our war is with corporate food companies who seek to poison us. And they are doing it. And we're being poisoned. No, we don't drop over dead. But we are dying slowly from eating their food that is laced with chemicals and is laced with genetically modified organisms. Those things that our bodies have no history of ingesting and do not have the know-how of how to process those foods. They are hurting us. So it is a war. Am I going to shred up a little newspaper to put in my garden to help mulch it? You bet I am. I'm not the least bit concerned about the soy that is in that ink. I'm doing the best I can do. I hope you will also. Walk through your garden in the morning when it's cool. Look at the produce you're producing and calm yourself and assure yourself that what you're producing in your garden by your own hand is so far superior to anything you could purchase in the grocery store. know that I'm here to help you and to provide answers if I can. Sometimes it's just my opinion, like it is today, but I feel very strongly about this opinion that that your newspaper, your shredded newspaper that has been composted, is safe to put on your garden, certainly safer than what's happening to it in fields in Mexico and all this imported food we're eating. They don't even have sanitation measures in their fields. They're urinating, and worse, in the fields. That's on your food. What is your newspaper going to hurt? I hope you take this to heart and do the very best you can. Your food, remember, will be much superior to anything you can buy in the grocery store. I hope this helps you out. I really am going to get on to my housework now. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Cat's Cradle.